how you can actually do good for your business, for the environment, and everything surrounding you. Let's do our part to help the planet to be a better world. Don't try to tell me you know love that hurt that. Thinking about the actual state of the planet and problems as climate change, the lack of resources, have so many things that we need to fix in our way of life, and we have to stretch this for our business too. Therefore, we decided to offer a course called Sustainable Operation, in which we are going to learn how to make your business more sustainable, how to reduce the use of resources, how to apply techniques to prove that you are doing this, and get all the certifications to have this extra asset that is being a sustainable business. Most of the companies, they are going to have something about recycling or even some rules about saving resources, energy or water, but sometimes it's not enough. Sustainability is everything about your business saving money, saving the planet, the environment around you, and better quality of life for people in your surroundings. So I'd like to invite you guys to enjoy our course and understand how you can actually do good for your business, for the environment, and everything surrounding you. Let's do our part to help the planet to be a better world. Don't try to tell me you know love that hurt that.
Oh, hello. Hey, sorry for the technical problems. We had a little issue in the beginning of this presentation, and finally we are live. So, for the ones who don't know me, my name is Roberta. I'm the trainer for the Diploma of Sustainable Operations, and I'm going to be presenting this masterclass about sustainability in business. Yeah. So, look, guys, I'm really open for participation. So, don't be shy to make questions on the chat, and I'll try to respond to all of them during the even during the presentation itself. I'm going to stop sometimes and just interact with you. Um, so yeah, let me start this presentation. Um, Let me just share my screen. So okay, it's sharing. And yeah, there it is. So, the course that I deliver is the Diploma of Sustainable Operations at Envirotech Education. So, this is a course about how to make the operations, the everyday operations of a business, more sustainable. How we actually reduce the impact that a business makes on the environment, and also maximize the positive impacts on society. Because sustainability is not only about the environment, it's also about the society itself. We need to have a balance there. Yeah. So I don't know what is if you how many people are already online here. So I just checking here the comments. So be free to send your comments. Okay, let me get this presentation going. So this masterclass is about sustainability and business, and how you can make a positive impact in a business. I don't know if you know, but uh, normally for a person who lives in a developed country, just 20% of our impact on the environment is from our household, from our everyday living, if we don't buy things. 80% of the impact of each person is from buying stuff. And we have lots of things, too many things, but we don't want to stop having our comfort. So, what do we need to do to actually have those business that provide our comfort our everyday life comfort in a way that it doesn't impact so much the environment? Oh, we're having messages here. And so, for the ones who don't know me, I'm originally from Brazil. I'm an oceanographer, and I have a master's degree in ecology and a PhD in coexistence science that I did in Japan. I actually spent 4 years in Japan doing a PhD. And I've been working as an environmental consultant for over 15 years. And I did a lot of work for big corporations, from resources like oil and gas to infrastructure, ports, and even a smaller business. But my specialty as a consultant is environmental impact assessment. It's exactly to understand how the operations of the business or a new project, for example, impacts the environment and how we can minimize that impact. So I spent many years doing this for big companies. And now I moved more to work with smaller companies. And also my passion about teaching. That is something that I've been doing since I was 16 years old actually. My first experience as a teacher was teaching sailing. I'm actually a person from the ocean. As you saw, I study oceanography. It was my first degree. And I was extremely privileged to grow up with a lot of contact with nature. My parents bought a sailing boat when I was 7 years old, really cheap sailing boat that we refurbished together, the whole family. And I had the opportunity to have a lot of contact with nature, especially with the ocean. What brought my interest to study about the ocean, about the environment. According to my mom, actually, I used to say that I wanted to protect the planet since I was 4. So I think I was the really annoying toddler that was always trying to save all animals and all plants around me. That's what they told me. And I believe so because of some of my oldest memories, it was about that, was actually in nature and trying to protect nature. So this brought me to study oceanography. I also study economics, to tell the truth, but my passion was always the ocean, so I moved to oceanography, moved straight to a master in ecology. And during this master's, I started to do consultants. So my main consultants at that time was with environmental monitoring. So I used to exactly check how activities were affecting the environment, especially the marine environment, and try to understand how they were being affected so we can fix it. Yeah. The truth is, everything that we do impacts the environment. So it's extremely important to understand how it happens. But first, let me bring you a little bit about sustainability itself. I'm not sure if this comment section is working. So first, I would like to ask you guys to say hi. Who is there? So I can see if the comment section is working. Oh, hello, Melissa, Rosario, welcome, Patrick, Martina, Anita. Hey, welcome. Good evening to all. Yes, welcome all. Hello, Mary Jo. Yeah, okay, guys. So let me make you a question. When someone asks you about sustainability, what is the first word that comes to your mind? The first thing that comes to your mind. Just type it there. Let me see the kind of answers I get. Environment. Yeah, Anita. Earth. Longevity. Planet and nature. Sustainable Development Goals. Good one, Patrick. The SDG. Yeah, but you notice there is a pattern there. Everybody goes straight, mostly. Oh, resilience, Olivia. I like that. So, but in general, most people are going to think about the environment, about plants, about animals, coexistence. Good one, Melissa. Yeah, that brings more to the balance of sustainability. So, from the dictionary, live in harmony with nature, respect it. Good one, Rosario. Yeah, from the dictionary, like from the World Economic, the World Council on Economic Development, the definition of sustainability is to meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. Yeah. So Patrick talked about the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. So it brings me to also the sustainable development. Yeah, there is also the ability of meet human development goals, maintaining the capacity of the planet to supply natural resources and natural service needed by society and economy. So when normally we are working with sustainability, we are not working just with nature. Something sustainable needs to be balanced between the social development, economical development, and environmental protection. Hello, Marilyn. Welcome. So we need to find this balance. So think about your experience. When you go to a developing country, for example, Bali, I bet that most of you have been to Bali. Yeah, it's so close to Australia. What is the first thing, considering the environment, that calls your attention when you get to a place like Bali? Don't be shy. Can be any other developing country. Don't need to be just Bali. Something that calls your attention. Culture, good. But considering the environment, that you notice when you visit a developing country, tropical environment, good one also, Melissa. Nature resources, a lot of exploration of nature resources we see in those countries. Litter, yeah, Nathan. Trash, Claire, everywhere, isn't it? We see a lot of pollution. We see a lot of depletion of natural resources and huge deforestation. We are always seeing on the news things like fires in the Amazon or deforestation for palm oil plantations in Indonesia and Malaysia. Air and water quality issues. Yes, Olivia. So we have all those problems in developing countries at the moment. If I tell you that about not so far ago, I'll say 60 to 70 years ago, Europe was in the same situation. The US was in the same situation. Australia, not so much. Creative ways of recycling, reuse things. That's a good one, Anita. Definitely. We see this a lot. I've worked in some projects that you have no idea the kind of creativity I've seen. But the truth is that if you get like from 60, 70 years ago, Europe was way worse than the most polluted countries, developing countries at the moment. Yeah. We had litter everywhere, the rivers were polluted, the air was disgusting. London used to be covered in constant smog. You know, people now say about China being covered in smog, all the pollution in China. Europe was like that. Yeah. Europe was like that. The Thames was dense of so much pollution. So what happened? We had the Industrial Revolution over 100 years ago that we started to produce so many things and burn coal. In the beginning, was the main source of energy in the beginning was coal to produce in mass. And it increased the economy. Yeah. 100 years ago in Europe was normal to find a 5-year-old kid working in a factory. Yeah. So all the conditions we're seeing now in developing countries, we used to see in the developed countries now. What changed? It was economical development. Economical development created the means, the economical and social development created the means to fix that issues. Yeah. Created the technologies, the legislation, yeah, and the social pressure to actually improve the environment in that countries. So we saw, because of economical and social development, we saw improvement in environmental protection there. However, about 30 years ago, those countries started to export their pollution, all the industrial production, to the developing countries. And now everything that happened there is happening in those countries that most of the time they don't have strong environmental regulations, and a lot of people are not educated, so they don't know how to fight for improving these issues. So yeah, without social development and economical development, we selfish human beings tend to destroy even more the environment. So, but there is a conundrum there. There's something that is really complicated. Our greed. We all want things, yeah? Especially us in developed countries, you know. I've read an article a few years ago that they stated that a toddler, a 5 years old kid in a developed country, consumed in the first 5 years of their lives more resources than a 30 years old person in Africa. So in 5 years, a kid in a developed country consume more resources than 30 years old of life of a person in Africa. So why? Yeah, because we have lots of things. We have things like cell phones, computers, cars, bicycles, and fancy houses, big houses. Yeah, we eat 3 meals a day. We like fancy food. We want things like the gourmets want the different kind and ingredients that probably need to come from the other side of the planet with a really high footprint to produce and bring that food over here. And we want those things cheap. Yeah. So this created a new reality of pollution. So a lot of people talk about plastic pollution in the oceans and everything. Toys, kids with a lot of toys. Yeah. I don't understand how the kids can have so many toys nowadays. The other day I went to the beach with a friend of mine and she took out a bucket full of toys. And like, gosh, your toddler have more toys than I had my brother and all my friends together had when we were kids. So yeah, we consume a lot. We want things. Yeah. We moved from a reality of needing things to wanting. We buy things that we want. Oh, that is beautiful. I want. I don't know what I'm going to do with that. But I buy anyway. It's cheap. How many times you've seen people doing that? Yeah. It's part of human behavior. So we created much more pollution because of that. Plastic, including the plastic toys, 90% of all plastic in the environment was produced after the mid-90s, 1990s. It's not so far away ago. I was already going to uni, you know? So, and it's complicated. We created more. Things became cheaper because we improved the way you produce. We started to produce things in developing countries with really cheap labor. And of course, the cheaper, buy more. And if it's cheaper, you just don't give much value. Like when I was a kid, to get a new toy, we need to valorize that. Whoa, it's like a treasure. You take care, you protect. I'll never forget when I got my first bicycle. Yeah. That was the 70s. Things were expensive and really hard to get them. And I'm middle class. Now, everybody has bicycles. I got my first bicycle, I think I was 9 or 8. So, yeah, things are much more expensive and much more complicated. So we valorize more. Now people, nah, it's looking ugly. I'll throw away. I buy a new one. It's cheap. So we create these problems. So, of course, changing human nature is really difficult. I think it's one of the most difficult things to do. However, we need to fix the problems that we are creating to the planet. How do we do this? I believe that the first step is try to fix the way we do business. Yeah. I was on the other side for a good amount of time when I was younger. I was in Greenpeace. I was doing protests and stopping roads and climbing buildings, including a nuclear power plant. Yeah, I did that. And like trying to just stop. But the system is really powerful, you know? It doesn't work fighting head on the system. We need to change the system from inside. And that's where we come. Yeah. By developing business in a way that they're going to impact less the environment. So, and why my slide didn't change? Because this thing is not here. So as I said, we need to face in the business the triple bottom line. We need to take in consideration the financial part of the business or of life, of a planet, of a country, the financial part, the social, and the environmental. And we need to take those three aspects in consideration, taking consideration the risks, the obligations, and the opportunities considering those aspects. That's how we start to create a sustainable business. Yeah. So there are many motivations for a business to become sustainable, yeah, or to invest in being sustainable. Things like organization commitment and statements to sustainability. Sometimes the owners of the business, they want to be sustainable. They want to create a business that's going to be better for the world. A good example for that, I even can get two books here in my library, is Patagonia. Patagonia, for the ones who don't know, it's outdoors clothing and equipment company from California, from US. I'm not sure. I think it's California. They used to make just equipment for hiking and climbing, and they also surf. So the owners of Patagonia, they've always been passionate about the environment. That's all the place that they wanted to be. It was in nature. And they got to a point that they decided that they would want to make their business be better to the environment. So they started to study how to improve the business to become more sustainable. And there are a lot of examples. I'm going to give some examples of things like that they found on the way. And there are two books that they actually sell at the shop, so we can buy anywhere, from the owners of Patagonia. The first one they released, it's Let My People Go Surfing. It's really interesting. It's about their journey of making a business more sustainable. And then they have the responsible company also. So Patagonia is a good example of a company where the owners made the statement, we are going to do our best for the environment. Yeah. They focus on that. So they are non-profit anymore. So the owners, they receive a salary like an employee. And the extra profits are all sent to environmental and social projects. Yeah. So this is a company focus on sustainability. Of course, that's not the reality. So really good, isn't it, Mary Jo? Yeah, they're both interesting reads. And the reality is the majority of the companies are not going to be like Patagonia. You need to have really visionary owners to be like this. So what is going to be the other drivers? Investors. Now, many investors are not putting money in companies who are not sustainable. Disclosing your sustainable standards became one of the requirements for investments. Many of even the superannuation funds, they're not putting their money in dirty companies anymore. And this is a big issue for some of the coal and oil companies. They're not getting investments. The banks are not helping them. Yeah. So that is a good point there. NGOs, pressures from NGOs. They're NGOs at the moment. They specialize on just disclosing the dirty things that companies are doing. Yeah. So scandals, it's going to simply damage the image of the company. Example, BP. I don't know if you heard about the 2010 accident in the Gulf of Mexico, the Deepwater Horizon. There is even a movie about that. Watch the movie, it's interesting. Just the first half. Then it's just explosion and Hollywood stuff. But the beginning is really interesting to see the chain of events that took to the accident. So this was the biggest oil spill in the history of oil exploration, yeah, not transport. And actually, in volume, in the end, it was the biggest oil spill. In peace times, Gulf of the Kuwait War, there were bigger oil spills. So Deepwater Horizon was terrible. They broke some rules, caused an explosion. 11 people died, and they had 47 days of blowout of oil. So it was oil gushing in the ocean. It was awful. The images was nightmarish, was the worst ever. So much oil just spilled in the ocean. There's still there. There's still oil in the environment there. It's not so easy to go. But the consequences is that actually it caused a loss of 55% of the share value for BP. So imagine a company as big as BP losing 55% of their value. This is bankruptcy level. They didn't bankrupt for a miracle. They had to sell lots of assets and they completely rebrand the business. Who, I don't know if any of you remember, but BP used to be red logo. Now it's green with leaves. And they had to change. They changed, and they changed the standards. I had BP as my client after Deepwater Horizon, and I was impressed because normally I need to fight with my clients to go beyond the legislation, and they were no, we can go further. We can do better than this. Yeah, not just the legislation. Let's go further than that. It was like, okay, I like it. I'm happy of doing that. So yeah, they had to change. They were burned. They got burned, and they moved on. Same happened with H&M. H&M clothes from Sweden. They were involved, not directly involved, but one of their suppliers worked in that a building that collapsed in Bangladesh. So it was a building full of sweatshops making clothes, and the whole building collapsed. And I think 1,200 people died in that accident. That was awful. And in the images where people digging, trying to save people, there were tags with H&M, Zara, and different brands. So H&M got so burned in Sweden at the time that they had to completely rethink the way they do business. So they have been investing massively in mapping their value chain and in setting standards of sustainability for their suppliers. So yeah, they're doing really good. Still a long way to go. Still not perfect, but they are on the right way. Not even Patagonia is perfect. It's really hard to get. I think getting perfect is almost impossible, but we need to do our best. We need to reduce as much as possible our impact. Because the truth is, everything we do cause impact, even organic farming. Yeah. So business customers, us pressuring, we are not going to buy from companies that pollute anymore. Yeah. We need to do our part, yeah, because we can change the market. I'm going to give an example for that. Cars. I don't know about the cars you have. I'm 48 years old and I had 2 cars in my life. I have my second car at the moment. Most of my life, I did everything by bicycle. And by both cars were extremely efficient, extremely economic. This is one of the first things that I want in my car: small and efficient. Small because it's hard to be efficient when it's a big car. And what is the most desirable kind of cars at the moment? The kind of cars that everybody wants: SUVs. People want big cars. Big cars are evil, are bad. Sustainable superannuation choices. This is a good one, Mary Jo. The truth is, when I discovered I could move the one that I already had, to a sustainable portfolio, I actually started to make much more money. Because in the recent years, the sustainable portfolios for superannuation, they have been getting much better dividends than the non-sustainable ones. Yeah. Actually, if you consider 2021, the companies that grew the most were technology and sustainable companies. So yeah, that gets good returns. So the cars. I always like Toyota because Toyota is a company that always focus on sustainability and on efficiency. So all their cars are really efficient and fuel efficient. And I was shocked when I saw Toyota siding with Donald Trump against the new legislation in California that limited the amount of greenhouse gases emitted by cars. I was shocked. Why? No, why Toyota is doing that? So I decided to dig it deeper. And then what I found was because of the SUVs. They need to survive. And people wanted SUVs. And they were not able to get SUVs emitting as little as the legislation in California wanted. So big cars, more pollution. People who want big cars, you are just contributing more to greenhouse gases emissions. And also microplastic tires. When the tires get mold, where do you think all that rubber and plastic ends? In the ocean. Yeah. The more you use your tires, yeah, more you are polluting the environment too. So everything. So I can get a huge list, but we don't have enough time for that. Resource shortages. We have issues of shortage of resources. So sometimes we need to change the way you produce things because we don't have enough supplies for that. The consumer preference, return of investment. Actually, one of the best thing about reducing impact of your business is by reducing the consumption of resources, especially energy. If you consume less energy, you pay less. So you're going to save money. Yeah. Local legislation in general. Yeah, we have changing legislations. Good example now, the European Union, it's about to pass a legislation that they are going to tax on the border any product that was not produced considering greenhouse gas emissions to the same level as the legislation obliged inside the European Union. So things produced in Australia, where we have a really relaxed legislation, almost an existing legislation about greenhouse gases emissions, they're going to be taxed when they get into to be sold in the European Union. So this is going to force the companies in Australia to adjust their emissions to the levels that are being obliged to the companies in the European Union. That is good. We want to see more. Joe Biden said that he's going to do the same in the US. First, they need to make the internal things better, because Donald Trump destroyed a lot of the environmental legislation in Australia, in US. He's fixing it. That is great, isn't it, Rosalie? I can't wait for the US doing the same. But yeah, they have a long way to go. Yeah. So things are happening, but a lot is happening because we are pushing. And the best way we have to push is by pushing the business. The same. If it's economic incentives. If they can sell, yeah, they are going to have to change. What else we have? Those brand, employee recruitment, because in a sustainable business, people are happy. Yeah, because sustainable also include the social. So people know what they're doing and they're going to be proud about that business. And of course, you want to work there. You want to stay in the business that you feel proud about it. And of course, image. Yeah. So we need to create the culture of sustainability in a business. Yeah. A culture of sustainability is one in which organizational members hold shared assumptions and beliefs about the importance of balancing economic efficiency, social equity, and environmental accountability. This is what we want to see in the vision of all business, in the mission, actually, could be in the mission of the business. We need to bring to every single person inside of the business that concept. Not so easy. I've worked many years delivering environmental training inside of big corporations. And in the beginning, it was hard. People would look at me and, we're not going to do this. But after a long time, I've seen amazing results and see people getting those concepts so branded inside of themselves that they bring the same attitude to their everyday lives and their family lives. So culture of sustainability is important. It's how we start. We need to create that. Yeah. And we know that 93% of the CEOs see sustainability as an important, something important to their company's future success. Yeah, this is great. So how do we start? First, we need to find the problems of sustainability in the business. We need to identify how the business is impacting the environment and how it's impacting society too. Yeah. So problems with procedures, how you do things, how is your process, how is equipment? You do you have maintenance? Like bad maintenance equipments, they are going to use more energy, they are going to leak oil, they're going to cause issues to the environment. Materials, what kind of materials you're using, where are they coming from, how are they sourced, were they sourced in a responsible way? Are you using wood coming from deforestation? Yeah. Are you using palm oil for a place that caused deforestation of virgin forest? Yeah. Are you buying? I live in Byron Bay. I joke with my friends. Do you know the source of that crystal that you bought? Yeah, pink quartz. They're really fancy here. Normally, they come from mines in the Congo where they use kids. They send the kids inside of a really dangerous hole to pick up those crystals, and then they sell to bring good vibes here in Byron Bay. Yeah. So for me, that crystal has a really bad mojo. It was produced in the wrong way. So we need to identify those things. How is your energy consumption? How your process? Can you maximize the process to consume less? Can you bring your things closer? So we are going to need less transportation. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Completely under-regulated. No regulated at all, Mary Jo. They don't have it. Those places, there is zero regulation. It's scary. Yeah. What is the design? How is the design of your product? Is your product designed to be recycled, or it was designed to be thrown, be used for a number of times and then be thrown in the trash? Yeah. We need to bring the circular economy, and that starts in the business by how you produce things. And from the design table, we need to think in products that they are going to impact less, they are going to have a second life, they can be fixed, and they're going to last for a long time. We cannot be buying a cell phone a year. I know people who buy a cell phone by a year. This is outrageous. It's ridiculous. We should have products that can be fixed and last for a long, long time. Yeah. So these are the kind of problems that we need to face. What can we change? Yeah, the products, the process, the way you deal with your employees, including health and safety, the impact on the community, the impact on the environment, efficiency, yeah, waste management, emergency incidents, so many things. It's crazy, Mary Jo. I have no idea. I don't even want to get with the electric cars. I'm scary with the possibility that they want to bring up under ocean mining for batteries. Yeah. Because open these things to recycle, it's so hard. We need to bring better recyclability of batteries, make it easier to be recycled and bring back. Because we still have a population growing and people want more and more. So we want to understand our value chain, that steps that transform raw materials into a product that's going to be sold somewhere else. Yeah. So it's going to be manufactured, it's going to be transported, consumed, used, and then disposed. We need to end this linear value chain to make the circular one. But how do we do that? How do we understand that inside of a business? First of all, we need to understand the process, map process. Sometimes I tell my clients that I need to map the process. We need to describe how the process is done. It's like, oh, this is too much work. And should we do it? And you start to see all the things that they are doing that, God, you're throwing money away there. You're using more resource than you need there. And then we see, when you map and you analyze, you can consume much less. And in the end, they actually have a better quality product with less resources and, of course, cheaper to produce. Yeah. So we need to do this kind of things, and we need to find out the waste. When I say the waste, it's not only that waste that we put in the bin, it's the waste in the actions. So we normally, when we're analyzing sustainability, working with sustainability in business, we work a lot with efficiency. Yeah. And we use the techniques, that set of tools that we call the Lean system. They came from the Toyota efficiency system. So there are some Japanese words there. Yeah. And the first one is muda. Muda, it's anything that does not aggregate value. It's a waste. It's things that should not be there. We have muri, overburden, when you put people to work too much or a system to work too much, or an environmental system under pressure. For example, salmon farming in many places. They over populate those salmon farms, and they get too many in one place and overdo the like force the environment to a point of eutrophisation that is not healthy for that environment. Yeah. So this would be a muri, overburden. And mura, it's unbalance, unevenness. But the one that we work the most is actually muda. I actually put it here in Japanese. I do speak Japanese. I lived in Japan for 4 years. I had to learn. Yeah. But yeah, we normally say that we have seven important mudas. Yeah. The waste in overproduction, when you produce too much. The waste in time in hand, when you're waiting. Yeah, you're producing something here, but you people waiting, or you have the body of the car, but you still don't have the engine. How many jo genki desu? Watashi wa totemo denki desu. So the weight in transportation. Can you believe that the other day I went to Woolies and I passed in front of the fish sector and there were some lobsters, and I'm fascinated about lobsters because actually my father used to dive for lobster before he went to uni. It was his job. He was a fisherman, fishing lobsters for a living before I was born. And when I look, there were lobsters from Tasmania and there were lobsters from Brazil, and the Brazilian lobsters were cheaper. Oh, Olivia, kore musukashi. Yondenai. I can't read that. The kanji is hard. Just a hiragana. Raishi desu. The kanji in the beginning. I'm forgetting how to read kanji. Yondenai yo, muri. So, yeah. No worries. Kanji is too hard. I need to practice again. I've been out of Japan for over 10 years. If you don't practice, you forget. I still speak. I still talk with my friends in Japanese, but reading. The other day, my sensei from Japan sent me an email, and it took me 2 days to read the whole thing. Yeah, I love studying. I do. That's why I love teaching. So we imagine that they brought those lobsters all the way from Brazil to sell here. Doitashimashite. So imagine the amount of footprint. The footprint from bringing lobsters all the way from Brazil to sell them in Australia. When I was in Japan, I saw mangoes from Brazil being sold in Australia, in Japan. So imagine the footprint of this transportation. How much waste? Can you bring it from closer? Yeah. The waste in processing. When you have too much processing, that is going to use more energy. We don't want that. Yeah. Stock in hand, inventory. You know a good tale for inventory? Remember that spindler findlers, that those little toys that the kids liked a few years ago? So it became like a fad. All kids want those toys. So many people in the US bought thousands of those things, and they stocked in Amazon. You know that we have the individual Amazon shops that you can have your own shop inside the Amazon and sell things via Amazon. So they had this huge inventory of those toys, but the fad died and they are never able to sell it. So it became waste, all thrown in the trash. Yeah. Those things are small, they cannot be recycled. So yeah, it's become a problem. Waste and movement. You're wasting energy. We have to move things from one side to the other. Yeah. So we want to avoid that. And waste on making defective products. Yeah. We don't want things that are not functional or the people don't want to buy. So we don't want to create things defective that are going to become waste. So these are the 7 moods. We want to analyze that in the business. And also how we use the resources. All kind of resources, energy, raw materials, water, people. Yeah, we need to understand and maximize, reduce the impact of that. So let me give you a couple of examples. This is an example of daily energy loss for pumping water. Yeah, the simple thing of using a water pump. So more than 90% of the energy extracted from the ground is wasted before it becomes useful work at a water pump. So if you consider all the way from mining the coal, burning the coal, using the coal to move the turbines to generate electricity, transmit electricity. So just the coal is so inefficient that just in the coal power plant, you actually waste 70% of the amount of energy existing in the coal. So from all the joules, all the energy inside of 1 ton of coal, you're going to use just 30%. Just 30% is going to be transformed into electricity. So it's an extremely inefficient system. And most of the energy we are consuming here in Australia comes from this inefficient system. Yeah. Then transmission of energy. The further the transmission, more losses. But on average, around 90%. Motor losses with the motor to move the pump, 10%. Drive trains, to move it, 2%. Pump, 25%. The trode, 33%. And then a pipe, 20%. So yeah, you lose 90% of the original energy just to move a water pump. So when you're going to use the water in a garden, think about that. How much energy you're wasting when you're using too much water. Try to use gravity. It's better. This is another example. A car. Yeah. A combustion car. So this is a Sankey diagram. I know it looks a lot of engineering thing, but we need to use those things. So from the 100% of energy inputted, yeah, in the Sankey diagram, the arrows are proportional to the percentage. Okay. So this is 100%. You lose between 68 and 72% of the original energy in the engine. In the process of transformation, that happens inside of the engine, you lose up to 72% of the original energy. Then you're going to lose more 5 to 6% on the drivetrain. Then you have the parasitic loss. Parasitic loss, including aerodynamics. So there comes again the SUVs, the big cars, not so aerodynamics. Bad. They're going to lose even more energy. When people carry things on top of of the cars, I'm guilty. I carry my surfboard. I have a longboard. It doesn't fit inside of my car. So yeah, these are going to reduce the efficiency of a car. And idling, we have more 3%. So actually, to move your car from the original amount of energy on your tank, inside of the gasoline inside of your tank, you're going to actually move your car just 18 to 25% of the energy is going to be transformed into the movement. So it's a huge loss. And the bigger the car, the bigger the loss. So bad. Electric cars are really efficient. First of all, here, I think it's just between 5 and 10% for electric cars. They don't have drivetrains. They go straight to the wheels, so they don't have those losses. So yeah, that's why electric cars is also quite good, not only because they're not burning fossil fuels, but also because they're more efficient with the energy they are using. Also, we always tend to think that electric cars are too expensive, but they pay back. If you're charging your solar panels at home, you normally, if you're not like a really luxury Tesla Model 3, I don't know, the most fancy one, that one is quite expensive, but an average smaller electric car, even though it's more expensive to buy than normal same size combustion car, you're going to have your money back on saving energy, on saving on gasoline. Yeah. So yeah. So as I said, we need to reach efficiency. That's what we want in a business. So a sustainable business, it is efficient in all aspects. So a business that make one sustainability program, just one part of the production, they say, I have this product that is sustainable. This is greenwashing. This is fake sustainability. A sustainable business should be sustainable in every single action, from how they treat their employees and the community around it, or how they rely on their raw materials and the production systems and the design of the product to be sustainable also in the use, in the life, the use life of the product, and also in the end of life of the product. We don't want to see products that are cradle to grave. Yeah. We want products that are cradle to cradle. They come back into the cycle, creating the circular economy. Yeah. So efficiency are the conditions of fact of producing the results you want without waste. So you produce the same amount with less. Because our biggest problem with the environment is because we're taking too much. We're just taking. We need to take less, and we need to be able to get the things that are already in use and bring back in the system. That's what we want to see in a sustainable business. And that brings me to something that everybody have been talking about: carbon emissions and carbon footprint. So we need to tackle that in the business. And efficiency is the tool to do that, because you're going to be consuming better, less, and consuming better. Yeah. So the carbon footprint is the amount of greenhouse gases, and specifically CO2, the carbon dioxide that is the most abundant, the one that we emit the most, emitted by something, as a person, activity, or product manufactured or transported during a given period of time. Yeah. So I think most of you, if you are here, is because you are conscious. You're worried about the environment. You have been hearing a lot about climate change. And probably you have been in some arguments with people saying that, nah, climate change is just a conspiracy. They just want to take our freedom. Yeah, I hear that a lot. And I bet some of you have the same issue. Yeah? The truth is, we know about climate change for a long time. Yeah. I think, if I'm not wrong, the first scientific article published about climate change, it was in, I'm not sure about the date, but I think it was 1930s. In the 1930s, there was already scientific articles talking about climate change. Oh, I knew that when I was a kid in the 70s and the 80s, you know. And the truth is, yes, the temperature is rising. And people say, it's conspiracy theory. This chart shows the data from 4 different research centers. Yeah. NASA, Hadley Center for Climate Research Unit, NOAA, the National Center for Environmental Information in the US, and the Japanese Meteorological Agency. And they say they are pretty much identical with few variations. So these are temperatures measured in different parts of the planet. And that's what they're saying. So yes, the temperature is rising. But if people say, oh, come on, it's just 0.8 degrees in that chart. Yeah. From our average, that's what we considered in the first half of last century. Yeah. The beginning of last century, beginning of the Industrial Revolution. If I tell you that in the previous ice age, yeah, when we had 1.5 kilometers of ice on top of Manhattan, Manhattan, New York City. Imagine where New York City is now, there was 1.5 k's of ice on top of it. The difference between the late 1800s, it was just less 4 degrees Celsius. Yeah. So less 4 degrees Celsius from this was enough to make 1.5 kilometers of ice on top of Manhattan. So think about how much it changed the global environment, the global climate. And this is the issue. That's the problem that we are doing. Because we are here. Yeah. Oops. We are here now. Yeah. This is where we were in the 1950s. And this is where the planet was in the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere 400 years ago, 400,000 years ago, sorry. So look, in the 1950s, we passed the peak, yeah, from before 300,000 years ago. All these greenhouse gases were absorbed by plants and fixated underground during millions of years ago, and they became oil, gas, and coal. So what we got? We took all that carbon that was quiet there, buried in the deeps of the planet, and we burn it, and we bring that carbon back to the atmosphere. We can go back in time even further. This is the carbon dioxide levels in parts per million all the way back to 800,000 years ago. See, we already ahead of that. We had periods that we had more than this in the Holocene, yeah, way before, when we had so much volcano activities that they were emitting a lot of those carbon gases and greenhouse gases in general. But the planet was in a different situation; it was much warmer, and yeah, the nature took it out. The natural system took it out of the atmosphere and put it quiet, and we put it back in the atmosphere. Yeah. But don't take me wrong. The greenhouse gas effect is fundamental. If we didn't have the greenhouse gas effect, we would live in a block of ice. Greenhouse gas effect, it's fundamental for life in this planet. The problem is that we have that window that keep us in a perfect condition for our development, yeah, for producing food, to live in a comfortable way. If we pass that comfortable line, things get more complicated for us. And unfortunately, we are doing that. We are shooting our own foot, because the truth is, nature find a new balance. We are the ones who are going to get in trouble. We are the ones who are already seeing problems. We're seeing lots of issues, from extreme weather with storms. We see much less ice, the ice melting, droughts, fires. Come on. Australia is one of the countries that's warming the most. We are creating problems for ourselves. Some of the problems we all know, but others are not so visible. Take a look at these pictures. I selected these pictures because I bet You haven't seen, most of you haven't seen that. Do you know what it is? Any of you have seen these images before? Know what happened in these places? Don't be shy. What do you guess happened there? Come on, people being really shy. Sinkhole. Not exactly. It's the opposite, Josh. Martina doesn't know. Tsunami? Nope. No, not deforestation, Anita. Not drought. So this happens, no earthquake. Let me give you a tip. This is happening in really cold regions in Siberia, North Canada, Alaska, Iceland. Nope, no tsunami. That's not yet there. This is the permafrost melting. The permafrost. Yeah, not the fjords, but the permafrost. So these are regions, really cold regions, close to the pole, the North Pole, and the soil, the sediment, it's frozen. It's what we call permafrost. Perma, always frozen. Yeah, the soil is always frozen. But with global warming, the permafrost is melting. So they're collapsing, they're sinking. Yeah. So this picture here is what they call the drunken forest, because since the soil underneath those forests was frozen, they melt and they became mushy, and then the forest doesn't have how to maintain themselves, and the trees start to lean down and fall. This example of this house sinking was because of that. The soil underneath sank. But these are the one thing. See, also here it also sank, and then it started to get erosion with the rain and cause big sinkholes from permafrost. But this one is something even more scarier than the other ones. Can you see that a lot of the materials was thrown outside? It didn't collapse in, it went out. This is methane explosion. So methane that was in bubbles underneath the sediment, and when it was frozen, so it was quiet there. With global warming, with the permafrost melting, they volatilized and exploded. Poof. People started to find this in Siberia in recent years. There are dozens of those. So this is scary. We have a lot of methane leaking from those places because, yeah, they are not frozen anymore and they're getting out. So it's horrifying. Raquel is exactly, sorry, Rachel. I said your name in Portuguese. And it's scary that we're doing this to ourselves, to our planet. Yeah. And we need to understand how we reduce this. So we know there is a carbon cycle. You probably saw something like this, probably mid-school or first year of high school. You have seen the carbon cycle, the nitrogen cycle. Yeah, we need to understand how we are emitting, how we're putting this carbon dioxide and the other greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, and how we bring it back into the cycle, how we mobilize it again, bring it into the ocean, into the soil, into the sediments, so it doesn't stay in the atmosphere, at keeping warm and getting more heat, because we can't deal with that heat anymore. Yeah? So we need to analyze our emissions, like what we're sending to the atmosphere, and understand how we can sink, how we can get the carbon back into the soil, into the water, and into the plants. So many companies, they use offsettings as ways of compensating for their emissions. So you can buy offsetting credits for reforestation, for example. So they're going to plant trees to absorb all the CO2. We There's carbon sequestration. There are many projects for carbon sequestration going down. Some of them, like the ones that some oil and gas companies are using, are not really working, like the carbon injection into the sediments. They are not being able to put enough. The other ones that actually pump from the atmosphere and put into chemical reactions so you can actually put the carbon into rocks. It's a good one. It works. So yeah, we need to do that, because just forests, we are not going to have enough forests. We don't have space because we still need to produce food. Yeah. And we don't have space for everything. Oh, no worries, Marilyn. Sorry for that. I already passed the time. I always do that. I talk too much. It was a pleasure to have you here. So, yeah, we need to do that. But to be able to work with our emissions, we need to understand where they're coming from and how we are going to measure and how we're going to report it. So normally we use CO2 equivalent, yeah, because there are many gases that cause they're called greenhouse gases. These are good. Mary Jo, salt marshes are really good. Seagrasses and mangroves are excellent to fixate carbon. Yeah. So we take in consideration the global warming potential of each one of those gases, and we equalize them with CO2. So we use the CO2 equivalent when you're talking about greenhouse gases emissions. So CO2, the carbon dioxide, will be the one, equivalent to one global warming potential. Yeah. And methane, for example, the one that exploded in those crateras there in Siberia, is 25. Nitrous oxide, 298. This one is used a lot in manufacturing, and especially for electronics manufacturing. Hydrofluorocarbons, this one is famous. It's the same kind of gases that produce the hole in the ozone layer. So there are many different hydrofluorocarbons, and their global warming potential goes between 77 and 2,310. Really bad. Unfortunately, even though we had an international agreement that all developed countries agreed to reduce drastically the use of those gases because of the hole in the ozone layer, we have witnessed in the recent years an increase in emissions from those gases, especially from China and India. Yeah. The perfluorocarbons, also over 7,000. Sulfur hexafluoride, 22,000. So yeah, it's not only CO2, but CO2, we emit so much that's why we always talk a lot about that. And this chart I took from The Economist from, I think was about 4 months ago, and this is the emissions from countries, CO2 emissions in gigatons by country region. Yeah. So at the moment, we see that China, yeah, is the champion, followed by the United States, Asia Pacific, we are there, Asia Pacific, India, Americas, Africa, and Europe. Yeah. So yeah, China became the big manufacturer. Europe is always proud. Oh, reduce our emissions. Yeah, but you're buying things from China. Same with Australian. The Australian politics love saying that we don't emit that much, even though we have one of the highest emissions per capita. Yeah. But everything we buy comes from China. So yeah, the heavy load of our emissions are coming here from China. So we need to think about how we're going to do with that. And this I got from the world data, and these are the different sectors and responsibility on greenhouse gas emissions. And we see here, globally, 73.2% of the emissions comes from energy. Yeah, energy to be used in industry, energy be used in buildings, energy in transport. Yeah. So it's breaking down here. You see aviation, shipping, yeah, residential building, 10.9%. We have emissions from waste, from industry, like cements and chemicals, not consider the energy, because here we're going to add the energy. Yeah. Fugitive emissions. So, yeah, our problem with energy. We love energy. We love warm houses. Mary Jo, the trickiest combination seems to be maintaining global relations while keeping the energy expenditure low. Yeah, it is. See the situation in Europe at the moment. You probably have seen that natural gas prices double in price in the last 3 months. Yeah. And why? Because the low stocks in Europe and the complicated situation between Europe and Russia is making the prices up. And why do they need that gas? To warm the houses in the winter. So it's really complicated. We need to reduce. Look, everybody talk about going to renewables. Of course, we need to go to renewables, but we also need to be more efficient. We need to consume less energy. We need to be smarter in how we produce and how we live, how we make the buildings, using less air conditioning. Yeah. We need to make constructions that don't need air conditions, that can be kept in a comfortable temperature naturally. And it's possible. There's so many solutions out there that we can use. Yeah. So that's what we need to do. Nuclear energy, Ximena, it's I have my fears. I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and when I was a kid, my main nightmare was having nuclear war. It was my nightmare as a kid. It was the time of Cold War, you know. So I fear nuclear energy. I was in Japan when Fukushima, during the tsunami and Fukushima happened. So I think it's good for non-emissions, but we have the problem of waste, the nuclear waste, that is really problematic, even though we improve a lot how to doing that, but it's also risky. There's a new, not so new, but there's a lot of investment at the moment in nuclear fusion. And the good thing about fusion is that we don't have the problem of the nuclear waste. The waste is water and oxygen. So big investors are putting their money into fusion. I do believe fusion is going to be a huge game changing. The moment that fusion is running in a commercial capacity, fossil fuels will be gone for good. Yeah. Because fusion is going to be able to produce so much energy that we're not going to need fossil fuels anymore. I mean, I'm saying like they were destroyed. Yeah. That was one of the most affected areas. Wow. I haven't been there. I lived in the South. Yeah. So I think fusion would be a good thing, Ximena. I fear the normal ones, mostly because of there's a chance of accident, yes. But if you count, we use a lot of risk assessment when we work in sustainability and environmental risk itself. The truth is, if you go statistically, the damage to life caused by fossil fuels is way higher than from nuclear. Yeah. The deaths caused by the pollution of fossil fuels are way higher than any bomb or nuclear accident ever. So fusion, I think it might be, if they get there, they're trying, still not there, is creating an artificial sun. Yeah. So it's not easy. They're still not close to be commercial. Maybe more 20 to 25 years or even more to get into this level. So This is another chart, really interesting. This comes from the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change, and this is the sectors emissions of greenhouse gases by different sectors. So it's again a same K, but you see by services, different sectors: transport, building, industry, agriculture, yeah, equipments. Including cars, trucks, appliances, devices, engine motors and burners, and the total emissions. And this is the fuel, the sources of that emissions: oil, natural gas, coal, land usage, yeah, and different process, fracking gas, yeah. So yeah, the majority is still coming from coal, followed by oil. Natural gas is much more efficient. From the fossil fuels, the worst is coal, is the one with the less efficient, followed by oil, and then natural gas. Natural gas is the best option within the fossil fuels. Olivia, the building sector is contributing around 40% of all global greenhouse gas emissions. Also, the amount of energy consumed in the sector is shocking. Yeah, the amount of energy for steel, yeah, emissions linked to the steel industry, for concrete, yeah, for the another thing is one of the sectors that grow the most. So if you consider just the growth of the construction sector in China in the last 10 years, the amount of emissions linked to just that explosion of the real estate in China is crazy, is huge, yeah. So there are a lot of ideas too. I strongly, so for example, there are a lot of studies into changing the way we produce, we construct, to making things in a more efficient way, pre-made, that you just put in blocks and just assemble at the place, that you can reduce a lot the emissions doing like that. Moving to green steel. Yeah, we have this amazing green steel here in Australia. There is this lady, of course I forgot her name. She's originally from India, but he works in Sydney University, and she developed this green steel where they use tires instead of carbon, instead of coal, to add carbon to the steel. Yeah, because normally we have the metallurgic coal and you have the thermal coal. Yeah, so we need to take both in consideration. Oh, it got fast here. Ximena, everybody wants to live in the cities, and that is not sustainable. No. And living in big houses are not sustainable either, Ximena. We needed to have smaller houses. I myself live in it's not a tiny house, it's really small. It's a flat. Yeah. And to have this space, I cannot put anything else around me. It's really really small space, but I don't need more. Yeah, we need to stop having so many things and so many space. Mary Jo, to me, it seems that number one, we must consider that if something is man-made, it will need maintenance, repair, breakdowns. And if what we utilize as a source cannot handle these occurrences, don't touch it. I believe we must consider it that way. Yes, that's a good point there. We Everything we do has an impact. Yeah. And everything is going to cause emissions. Even organic farming that has emissions. Everything. So yeah, we need to think. I'm going to get my final conclusion in the end. What I was thinking that what we needed to do. Let me just get a couple of more slides. I think I have just 2 more slides. So when you're also talking about the greenhouse gas emissions, we also have scopes. So where the emissions are coming from. So we normally we have 3 scopes. Scope 1 is our direct emissions. For example, when you burn fuel, when you burn coal in your own company, yeah. So this is going to be scope 1. The cars owned by your company. So for aviation company, the fuel burned by the airplanes is all scope 1. Scope 2 is indirect emissions from energy bought from the grid. So here in my house, I live in a forest. I cannot have solar panels in my house because I'm on the shade from the trees. Yeah, I have trees. It's really dense around here. So I can't put the solar panel. It's not going to produce enough energy. So my energy comes from the grid. Yeah. So this is scope 2. This is coming. I'm buying energy from another source, most likely coal, unfortunately. Scope 3 is all the other emissions and indirect emissions except scope 2. So for example, if you have your company make books, yeah, but you buy the paper, you buy from someone the paper, the emissions linked to the production of the paper is going to be scope 3. Okay. So we need to take those things in consideration. Normally, the few legislations out there, Australia does not oblige all business to disclosure their emissions. You need to pass a really high threshold, and just a handful of business in Australia pass a threshold that they must report the emissions. And the legislation says to disclosure just scope 1 and 2. So for Australia, the majority of our emissions are actually in scope 3 from things that we buy. We don't produce cars anymore. They all come from Asia, yeah, or Europe. So the emissions from the production of that cars, they're all happening offshore, yeah, all in scope 3. Yeah, Olivia Shing said about the prefabricated houses. They're really good results from making prefabricated houses. So just a little bit more. I actually already talked about this. So how do we solve that? What we need to do? We need to identify all steps of production, process, generation of carbon emissions, yeah, from the manufacturing to the end of life of a product. Identify all emission sources, quantify those emissions, identify the most significant emission sources, identify the root cause of the emissions, yeah? And then identify any process change that can reduce emissions. Yeah. So we need to map, we need to identify, and need to measure. What we don't measure, we don't manage. What we don't manage, we don't change. So this is fundamental to any kind of production. And we need to bring that to all business, for all operations. And that's what sustainable operations is about. Yeah. So in the Diploma of Sustainable Operations, we are saying the different kind of activities that we do to bring this to your business. Not only this, there are many other things. Yeah. This is just a little bit. Just about how you do this thing with the carbon is about 5 weeks, 5 week classes. It's just about how to identify, measure, and calculate your carbon emissions, and how to develop plans to reduce the greenhouse gases emissions. Yeah? So, and this is what we study there. We also study about how to reduce your negative impact on the use of resources, how to understand how we impact the society, how to make your business more social responsible. Yeah? How to do your reportings, because we need to prove that we are doing the right thing. So it's everything we need to change the business to be a sustainable business, not a greenwashing business, the one that do just the little things and they sell themselves as sustainable, even though they don't do anything significant to reduce their real impact. Yeah. So, yeah, what we actually need is to change the way we consume. I believe that. So in the beginning of the class, I talked about Patagonia, about a responsible company. Yeah. And one thing that they have been repeating a lot in their marketing recently is that don't buy this jacket. They say, if you don't need, don't buy. Yeah. So this business model that they are adopting is excellent. They're maximizing quality. They are making products in a sustainable way, and products they are going to last, that you can use for a long time. And even if you break something, you can take there and they fix it for you. Yeah. So instead of buying because you want, buying because you need, getting products of quality that you're going to use for many, many years. Yeah. Just to give an idea, in my own lifestyle, yeah, my mom did work a lot with fashion when I was a kid. So now the majority of the clothes that I own were my mom's clothes because she always faced on having things with quality. So yeah, they're still good. I'm still using. I have dresses that are more than 30 years old and they are all cool. I do this thing, instead of buying more clothes and I get tired of some, I put in a box, put in the back of the wardrobe, and then I rotate time to time. So sometimes I go to work with a dress and people, oh, cool, new dress. Nope, it's a 30 years old dress. I'm still using. Yeah, they're starting to do the food too. They have been investing in many projects for sustainable food, and it's still really small. But yeah, because they have this program. This is a little bit old. Falling my books. Stay. This, for example, is a report from Patagonia. This is from 2017. And this is a list of all projects that they put money. Yeah, from books, from different services. They have a list of different kind, including for fisheries, for sustainable salmon. Oops, and like this. Yeah. List of projects that they have been giving donations to help, from grassroots groups to sustainable farming, sustainable fisheries. Really, really cool that they do that. So this is a report from Patagonia about their donations. Yeah, I need to get a newer one. I need to ask them. I'm a little bit outdated with those. So yeah, we need to bring that. We need to bring that from everything. Think about the business you are consuming from. Where are they sourcing things? And start to push them to create a change. Huh? And if you have your own business or the business you're working, you can create a change from inside, sometimes from small steps. Sometimes we bring in the low-hanging fruit ones just to start and show, look, we can do this. Then you do the next one, and then the next one. And you see you're creating a much better business. So put the seeds from the inside, change the business from inside. This is what I believe that we need to do to actually make a positive impact in our planet. Yeah. So, any questions? I liked the interaction. I was able to keep the interaction and answering during the class itself. Any comments and questions that you want to bring? Gosh, I passed one more, almost 40 minutes. Yeah. So this is what you need to do. So if you want to learn more, we have at Envirotech Education, we have 2 courses: the Certificate for Environmental Management and the Diploma on Sustainable Operations. And the difference is the Cert 4 is a little bit more people who work in the collecting data more to the floor. In the Diploma of Sustainable Operations, we work with the strategic decisions to make the business sustainable. So to actually create it inside. So Martina is saying here, I work in a childcare, and there is so much to work on this sector as well. Yes, there is. And there are whole programs that we can do to increase sustainability in these areas. Unfortunately, some of those programs are a little bit too greenwashing. There's so much we still can do. Yeah. All the way to even educating the parents of how to raise the kids in a more sustainable way, because actually kids is a high footprint. I read this report recently that said that the single thing that you can do to reduce your carbon footprint is having less kids. They're like the most effective one, because yeah, we want to give things to our kids. Yeah. And with this mentality, we are putting so much consumption on top of those kids that we are increasing our footprints. In some situations, the kids are more than 60% of the total footprint of a family. We need to change that mentality. I have a family, friends of mine, they have 4 kids, and those kids have really low footprint. I'm so proud of them. And the last time I babysitted them at the beach, especially the 2 younger ones, and I made a game with them that I needed to clean the beach, and they found some toys, those toys from the supermarkets that Woolies and Kohl's give, and they found that. And in the end, that I was explaining why it shouldn't be there. I like to do this with kids too. And the little 5-year-old girl, I asked, "Okay, do you want to keep the toys?" She looked at me. "No, I don't like plastic toys. We don't need it." I was like, I hugged. I go, "You're a perfect child. I love it. Your mom is doing great." So we need to bring that. It's also the way we educate our kids, our teenagers. Teenagers are screaming a lot, but their lifestyles are terrible for the environment. Yeah, we need to bring that. We need to change. And we need to start with us. Starting changing us, we change the business that serves us. Yeah. So I hope you enjoyed this masterclass. I hope to see all of you in my classes in the future. And I think Fatima is going to be sending more information to you. And yeah, I'm open for any contact. You can contact me via LinkedIn if you have any more questions. I think in the beginning here, the PowerPoint, let me just bring here, there's my LinkedIn address. It's one of the first ones, actually. There I put my name. What it is? Oh, up. It passed. So that's me. But my LinkedIn is just LinkedIn Roberta dash Beltrão for my family name. And I'm always open. Look, send me messages. I'm here. And I hope to see you soon in my classes. It will be a pleasure to have you there. Okay? Thank you so much.
We were given a land.
We had everything we needed to grow and thrive.
But as human beings, we wanted more.
More convenience.
More power.
And more money.
We were smart, but we got lost.
For a moment, we didn't care.
We believe that we are improving.
But what we are doing, we're actually putting a band-aid on a problem. Our ground, our oceans, our air
are seeing the long-term effects of our way of life.
We are responsible for this damage, and we are responsible to manage this for our future generations.
It is all in our hands.
We need to use our knowledge, ideas and technology
to restore the balance.
So we can continue to live on this planet for many years to come.
We are close to the point of no return.
But we can still save our planet.
Let's educate corporations, government and individuals how to coexist with nature.
Join our sustainability courses.
Gain endless career opportunities in every industry you are passionate about.
And make it sustainable.
Start the change.
Join the team.
Make the difference.